Hey everyone, today I just want to do a quick comparison between two knives. This is not meant to be an in-depth review on either one, just a quick comparison between the two. This one is the Finch Devil's Finger. This one is the Kershaw OSO Suite. So let me give you a little history on it. I was looking for a knife to just for back pocket carry. For defensive knife use, I do got the Microtech with the bayonet blade. These are real good knives. If you've never had a Microtech branded knife, I highly recommend jumping out there, spending the money, and treating yourself to it. Just a super knife. There's a couple of channels out there that does in-depth torture tests on these, and that's what convinced me to go with one. So I carry that in my front pocket, and then most days I'll carry the little Tops knife, a little bro. These are hard to find, so if you find one of these, I recommend getting it. They got a nice slim sheath for it, and I carry it on the front. If your belt buckle was at 12 o'clock, this would be 12:30, 1 o'clock, just to the right of my belt buckle. And when your shirt's untucked, you can't even tell it's there. It just disappears, especially if you got an old man belly like I do. It covers it up really nice, and it's just the perfect size for both defense and hard use. I mean, that's a good thick steel blade. So the knives that we have on the table today, again, I was looking for something that was more of a back pocket carry. Obviously, I'm not going to use my Microtech for cutting open boxes and stuff like that. The tape residue, when you get it on the blade here, and then when you start retracting it, it will definitely gum it up over time, and you're going to wind up having to clean it and everything. So that's more for defensive purposes, at least in my opinion. So between the knives, I did a little research, and I'm really a fan of this spear point with a heavy drop. It's a drop point cut with a drop point nose. Big fan of that style of blade. Probably my only thing that I like better is the Tanto blade. And that'd be a toss-up on any given day which one I like best. So this is kind of what I was looking for, just for an everyday utility knife. Now, I got both of these from KnifeCenter.com. I paid for them out of my own pocket. I'm not sponsored by Knife Center or Kershaw or Finch, so all of this is just my own opinion and based on my own experiences. You can see the Finch was $129 and the Kershaw was $23.95. So big price difference there, and I expected to see a big difference between their performance. So let me go over the high points and the low points between both of them. Both of them, they're very, very similar. That's why I chose the two of them. Both have right around a 3-inch long blade and a 4-inch long handle. Blade steels are very, very similar on the thickness. You can see there. Cutting the blade thickness behind the edge is very, very similar. Blade design, they both have a flat on the back top side of the spine, and then come down with the hollow grind on the blade tips. It looks like the Finch is a little bit more steel on each side of the fine tip, so it'll probably hold up a little bit longer, and again, about the same length on them. Now, I can't tell you, the Kershaw is assisted opening and the Finch is not. So one of the, let's talk drawbacks first. One of the drawbacks on the Finch is it's easy to fail. If you don't put a lot of pressure on the flipper, the knife is not going to deploy. I mean, it'll just go about a little ways. Now, if that happens, you can simply just give it a flick with your wrist and it'll go ahead and open and snap and lock shut. So if you're not used to that, you've got to put forth a little bit of effort, or give your wrist a little flick and it'll open up. Now, one of the drawbacks on it, it's got jimping back here on the back side of the scales. I personally see no use to this at all. It doesn't serve any purpose when I'm gripping the knife. If you're going to choke up, it does have some jimping down here on the bottom of the flipper and also on the back side of the blade. I would love to see the jimping extended out along the length of the flat part of the blade, up here just to where the swedge stops. And then you could really choke up on it and really get into some fine, intricate carving work if you had to. But this back here, the jimping on the blade, on the back of the scales, no purpose whatsoever. In fact, if you carry a fingernail around and you normally have a nail, when you deploy this, your nail by default, it's going to come down against that jimping, and it just tends to bend your nails back. You can see right there, just on the couple of deployments, it's already started eating up what little fingernail I got. So that is a problem. You got to really focus on either opening it with the side of your finger, the back side, inside part of your finger, or concentrate on keeping your finger extended more when you're deploying it. So that's a drawback to this one. The next drawback to it is the scales. While it's a beautiful knife, I mean, it is just great looking, got a good name, Devil's Finger, with the red scales on it. It's beautiful. However, the scales are just very slick. It says it's a rough micarta in the description, and it is micarta. You can see it in there, but it definitely is not what you'd call rough micarta. It is very slick. If you had any water or grease from working on your car, or God forbid, if you had to deploy it and you had some blood on your hands, you may not be able to keep a good purchase on this. I mean, it could literally slip out of your hand, in my opinion, anyway. One other drawback on this one, if you look at the liner lock and compare them, try to get it in here close where you can see it. On the Kershaw, the liner lock extends almost to the halfway point of the blade. The Finch is just right on the very edge of the blade. I mean, it's barely catching. Now, with that said, I'm sure Finch has people that's a lot smarter than me working for them, and I'm guessing that lock is going to hold just fine, even though it's just barely up there on the see if we can focus on that, barely up there on the edge of the blade. I mean, it's just real close to the edge. I assume it's going to hold good. Otherwise, we'd see probably a lot of lawsuits against Finch for it, the lock failing and cutting their finger open. But again, the Kershaw comes over at least to the 1/3 thickness of the blade. Now, the last thing that I guess is a detractor on the Finch is when it was shipped, it doesn't really come with a sharp blade. It's got a utility edge on it, don't get me wrong. I mean, you could probably cut through some 550 cord or something like that, but it does not come shaving sharp. There's only 1 or 2 spots on the blade where you could actually take your time and lift some hair on it, as opposed to the Kershaw. It did come out relatively sharp enough to lift some hair off. You can probably see that right there, hopefully. A little bit of hair on the blade. So a slightly sharper blade on the Kershaw. Now, that's subjective, and it's probably nitpicking, because everybody can put their own desired sharpness onto their blade, so not a huge factor there. Pocket clip on the Devil's Finger is a wire clip, and it's pretty elegant looking. I mean, a nice minimalist, and it is reversible for right or left hand carry, but strictly tip up, which in my opinion is the only correct way to carry one, unless you're carrying the automatic out the front knife. Then you definitely want it when you're pulling out of your pocket, you want the blade down, so that way when you push the button it deploys. With a pocket knife with a clip, if it is tipped down, when you pull it out, you basically have to flip it in your hand in order to deploy it. So to me, it's just not as comfortable. If it's tip up, I can grab it, pull it out, and actually deploy it as I'm drawing it out of and clear the pocket. So it's a little faster to get into position if you needed it. So again, either right or left hand carry. The OSO Suite is strictly right hand carry. I've already taken the clip off because again, I'm going to use it just in a loose back pocket carry. But it's comes from the factory with a tip up position, or you can change it to tip down if for whatever reason you want to put it on that. But you cannot switch it over for left-hand carry. Now again, the Kershaw is assisted opening, so this flipper is pretty hard to deploy. I don't think a small kid would have good luck with opening it up if you happen to leave this laying out, but it doesn't fail. I mean, when it goes, and it's got a lot more authority on the opening than the devil's finger does. You can just hear the difference in it, and you can feel it as far as the snap when it goes around. One other thing on the downside of the Kershaw, if you look at the centering of the blade, you can see the tip of it isn't centered too good, and actually this side of the blade rubs the liner lock right there. I mean, it's actually pretty much touching. I'm trying to get in there and focus where you can see it. Pretty much touches it, as opposed to the Finch. You probably could not get a better centering job done than they've done on this one. Of course, that's the difference between a $129 knife and a $24 knife. There's clearly going to be some differences in it. How they fit in your hand, the Kershaw has the little finger choil right there. So to me, even though it doesn't have any jimping on the back, it feels good in my hand. It's got some texturing on the scales as well. This is glass-filled nylon scales compared to micarta. So higher quality, lower quality, of course. But it feels good in my hand. It's a little bit thin. If it had a little more swell on the center portion, it'd probably be really good. But then for my purpose of sitting on it, I'd prefer it to be flat. Another advantage to back pocket carry and sitting on it, this has got a spacer in here on the back side, so that when it's in your pocket and your hind end is sitting on it, it's less likely to deform it. Whereas one like this, it's only got pins in the back. I guess over time you could squeeze those scales in. You can see it flexing a little bit just with my fingertips on it. So when you put 150 pounds of weight on it, yeah, you're going to be potentially bowing those scales out. So what's the long and the short of it? Basically, if I would have just ordered this Finch knife alone, I would be completely satisfied. I mean, it's a good looking knife. It's owned by these two gentlemen that I've never personally dealt with, but all of my research on it says that they're a stand-up company and two stand-up individuals, family men and everything. So I don't think you could go wrong by supporting that company. Again, great looking knife. Now, with that said, the Kershaw, by the way, both of these are actually made in China. This is 154 cm steel, which is a much higher end steel, and this one here is 8CR13 MOV, which would be, in today's standards, this would be considered upper middle grade steel, and this one would be an upper lower grade steel, based on today's available choices out there to get your blades made out of. Now, with that said, $129, $24. So you could actually replace this thing 4 more times before you had the equivalent value of the Finch tied up. So is this 154 cm going to last 4 or 5 times longer than this Kershaw steel? Probably not. I really don't think that you're going to put it under any use where you're going to find that situation. So if you're looking for a value knife, the Kershaw, in my opinion, is the way to go. And even though I bought both of these together, I was only planning on keeping one. It's a hard choice. For me, the clear winner is definitely the Kershaw, just because of the price point on it, and the overall fit and finish is acceptable. Actually, it's over the top for a $24 knife. I mean, you just cannot have any second guesses on that. So that leaves me with the Finch. I'd already contacted Knife Center, and like I don't know if I mentioned it or not, knifecenter.com, Finch, Kershaw, nobody is sponsors on this video. I paid for these out of my own money, so I'm entitled to my own opinion on them. And KnifeCenter.com, they are a great company. They have a very generous return policy. If you buy anything, I believe they're cut off at 60 days. As long as you have the original packaging and it's in new condition, you can send it back to them and they will refund your money. And the only stipulation to that is if you bought enough to get free shipping, they're going to deduct $5 from your refund in order to compensate themselves for the shipping that they paid to get you the device to start with. You will pay shipping back to them, of course, out of your pocket. So you'll lose $5 to $10 total over what you paid. So based on that, $129, I'd probably be looking at $112 refund or something if I sent that back. So I'm on the fence. I don't know if I'm going to keep it or send it back. Like I said, had I have just ordered it by itself, I'd be completely satisfied. I'd just take the pocket clip off and it would go in my back pocket, and I'd use it till I lost it or found that the scales was too slick, and then I would put it in the drawer. OSO Sweet has a great name. It is an OSO Sweet knife for $24. So again, haven't decided if I'm going to ship it back or just hang on to it and put it in the collection with the rest of them. No ding on Finch or Knife Center. It's a great knife, other than the little shortfalls that I pointed out in my humble opinion. I guess the two biggest faults I have on it is really three. Utility blade, to me, on a $130 price point knife, you ought to be getting something that can at least easily shave the hair off your arm. Without question, it should come sharper. Complaint number two is the scales are too slick. And then the third complaint is this jimping on the back of the scale. I've seen it on other knives too, and I really don't understand it. If you're holding, the handle's too short to hold it back here and get any serious work done, you're going to choke up on the knife and either hold it with your finger behind the flipper and your thumb on the jimping, or you can put your finger on the bottom of the flipper right there where there's jimping, and then choke up on it a little bit. So like I said, if they extended the jimping out here, it'd be a great little knife, and get rid of this jimping in the scales. Probably wouldn't have any complaints. You could always sand up the micarta if you wanted to get a little bit of purchase on it. So that's my humble opinion between the two. Your mileage may vary, but I think between the two of them, if you're looking for just something to beat around knife, the Kershaw OSO Sweet is definitely the knife that I would recommend for the price point. And again, we'll just pop these out here for size comparison. And top's little bro, kind of gives you an idea. They're all in that same blade length. The Microtech has a little bit longer blades. I think it's 3.4 inches or so. These are around 3.1, and I believe the Topps Little Bro is just under 3 inches. Yeah, it's right there. You can see it's just slightly under. So you can't go wrong with either one of those knives. But for the money, I think it's Kershaw OSO Sweet for the win. All right, thanks for watching.